Hey everybody, Tom March here, and with another episode in the Quick and Dirty WebQuest Professional Learning. And this is part of the series where I take a deep dive at a few sample WebQuests, both as an invitation for you to let me know if you'd like to use them, and then I'll sort of do a quick once-over and update the links and things like that, cast a closer look at it for a 2020 vision. And also just as an example, or perhaps inspiration of what you might do on a different topic. Okay, so this one is, I call, the website I call Some Crazy Cliff, inspired by The Catcher in the Rye. And it also includes Rebel Without a Cause and James Dean as the focal core texts. You can see from the graphic there that we're talking about square pegs and round holes. And the challenge and the big question is right there in the title, fit in, break out, or break down. So, as you can see here, it maps along the basic parts of a WebQuest. But let's look more carefully and see what sort of makes it unique. So one thing you'll see straight away is that, maybe you'll recognize this. This is on a WordPress site. So WordPress is one of many different great sort of web publishing tools. And so I used it for this particular WebQuest when I was working with a school. Now, in the introduction again, we're always trying to create a bit of dissonance to have people understand sort of what the aspects are, what the elements are under investigation. And it's really easy to do by using video. So I have a little clip from Rebel Without a Cause, and then this little trippy thing I found looking at America in the 1950s. Okay, some pretty cool graphics there from the time. Love those old Corvairs. The introduction explains a little bit more about that. So this was for high school students where they could do it online and read through it. So a little bit more text heavy than you'll see in the ones for younger students. Then we get down to the question, as mentioned, fit in, break out, or break down, but further elaborated upon here. And just the notion here, by exploring cultural icons from the 1950s America, you can gain insights into how you might make a life for yourself in an era that is just as turbulent. So that's where it's about you, the 1950s, and these two core texts. As I like to do, I include a section on background for everyone there, so we all have sort of a common understanding. And with that, you'll see a basic Word document. This is the deeper understanding. Here we go. Here's the background for everyone. So they'll put their basic information in, what were they exploring, and then identify some key elements about that, focusing on the element of conformity and rebellion. And then because we're trying to look at fit in and rebel or break out and succeed, those kind of elements, we use the continuum model here where students can sort of put a check on those, and then that'll help them come to some decisions about their perceptions. And for the resources to help that, you could just look at one link, but then there's some other interesting ones that start to hint at what comes in the group learning. So another way also to show learning, besides the worksheet that you just saw, is for students to do a mind map. So here's an example from the web used by permission about the 1960s as inspiration for what the students might do looking at the 1950s. So there we've got now established some understanding of what was going on in that time, predating, obviously, students. And rather than thinking about a past history, they might see some connections to what's going on in the world today or some things they may have heard of in history. Now we go into the group perspective, where students, either individually or in pairs, start to look at specific elements of this. So we're looking at popular culture, Marilyn Monroe, movie stars. You'll recognize some of these big elements, and all of those, well, not all of them, most of them are videos, which is great archival footage, which is nice because in the 50s we could do that. When we're looking at some older things, that's not as possible. Modern life and technology, communism and the Cold War, music and visual arts, and literature and poetry. Thinking about the beat poets there as well as other people. All right, so when they've done that, they've been using a group process worksheet. And so that one is like this. So it says, okay, when they get together in the group, they're going to combine their information. So what was the thing they focused on? What was the best link? And then some information about this, and then coming down to, did they rebel or conform, essentially? And then moving a little bit farther into saying, what was an early reaction? What was a public response? How do we see them today? Was there a psychic cost to that person or that group involved in it? And then where would you see this on the continuum? Okay. So again, using scaffolding in a worksheet to help students engage in that higher order thinking and start to synthesize what they may have learned through these rich resources. Now, getting to the core texts, then we're looking at Rebel Without a Cause and The Catcher in the Rye, and a few links there. Again, going beyond the usual things that you'll do with a text. And that's where I'd like to highlight that a WebQuest in literature, I would suggest, isn't to find out the facts of, plot, character, setting, symbolism, etc. But that's what you're going to do normally in your English class. This is to help understand the milieu of the time, maybe some of the things that led to the artists, the authors, the creators' perspective and what they were working against in context, or maybe new things that are moving forward. And then a lot of students are interested in John Lennon as a cultural icon, and certainly he falls into this category as well, and is sadly linked to both Salinger, and sort of lived the life of because of he was shot by Mark David Chapman, who was reading The Catcher in the Rye when he shot John Lennon. So again, still those themes of conformity and rebellion and success and psychosis play out here. So that sort of allows us to wrap up the WebQuest at one level, but I did want to leave it open because there are a lot of really talented and creative students in the class I was working with, so I wanted to give them an opportunity to go beyond that. So created this extension activity where students may take a look at some people that they're interested in, they may have heard about, or people that they go, oh, I know what you're talking about here. Nowadays, that would be, in my ear, would have been Kurt Cobain or something like that. But they'll have people, Amy Winehouse, that they're realizing sort of fall into these categories, and then they can create. I was encouraging them to create a viral video, something like that, that would allow them. It could be Instagram posts, it could be whatever you're comfortable with, and it doesn't actually always have to go out there. But it's kind of cool if students can get things out into the real world, at least in a shared way, to maybe a smaller group. Okay, so that's a deep dive into some Crazy Cliff, a WebQuest on The Catcher in the Rye, and Rebel Without a Cause. And again, what I'd encourage you to do is, if this is of interest to you, maybe you're studying either of those core texts or history in the 50s and that sort of Cold War era, get in touch either by subscribing and commenting on this video, or going to my website, tomarch.com, and finding the contact link, and let me know your interest. And this one is fairly recent, so it wouldn't take much for me to put this into top shape in terms of catching any link rot that might have been going on there. All right, so thanks very much, and I hope you're having a great day and staying safe. Thanks, bye.